Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. That's better. Welcome to IBIS2013. Not sure where the Montreux is its spiritual home, but we haven't been here for 5 years. But it's good to be back with the fabulous views across the lake. And I hope that your journeys here were relatively trouble-free. Just some housekeeping rules. If the fire alarm should go off, we leave the room on your right and assemble outside along the lake. You know it makes sense. Please switch your mobile phones off to silent out of courtesy to our speakers. I just want to be a little bit philosophical before we start. Tragedy is never that far away from family and friends. But it's something which I have never really encountered where tragedy touches an event like this. Matthew Ornstein died 3 weeks ago in America. He was a very important part of the North American business. He was somebody who introduced the idea even of multi-site operators or networks to the American market and actually involved Wall Street and private equity companies, encouraged them to invest in the collision repair industry. He was somebody who worked for Caliber Collision, which is a big MSO in America. And I know that Steve Grimshaw and Mark Sanders are here with us from Caliber and will recognise the efforts that Matt made in putting Caliber on the map. The reason I talk about Matt is that not only was he a big influence on the North American market, he was actually also an influence on IBIS in many ways. He's been a past speaker at IBIS, and he actually, in the conversations that I was having with him in the last couple of years, he sort of gave me the idea for looking at networks and consolidators, MSOs, in the global context. And I've attended a number of events talking about networks as a result of his inspiration. There was a memorial service a couple of weeks ago, and one of his dear friends and business colleagues, Vincent Roman, who's here today, wrote something for that event. And I've extracted a sentence from what he wrote. With all its shame, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. So let's not take for granted the precious gift of life and our individual and group connections here today and in the universal future. Let what we've learned from Matthew and his influence on us to be a gentle reminder to celebrate our lives to the fullest. And I thought that was highly appropriate to bring to you at IBIS because, if you like, we are a global family of the collision repair industry, and we've had a bit of tragedy as a result of losing Matthew. Now, that's had a bit of a knock-on effect, because Matthew was going to be speaking as part of a panel session at this event, and he was coming with his dear wife, Marcy. Marcy is part of his business, and Marcy was going to be facilitating a couple of the sessions today. But unfortunately, sadly, she can't be with us for obvious reasons. So we had to make some adjustments to the programme. And unfortunately, just to compound that, we had a couple of speakers, very rarely this has ever happened, drop out at the very last minute. So you can imagine an event like this, presents a number of challenges. But I have to say that a number of people rose to that challenge. There are a number of people in this room who have contributed to helping us find a solution to the challenges we faced. And on behalf of the IBIS team, I thank them very much. So that's resulted in a shift in the programme. And for those of you who look at the programme, will notice there might be some differences. What we're doing here is, I want to try and raise the level of optimism about our industry. This programme, we've attacked this in a different way. Those of you who have been at IBIS before will have seen the numbers rise over the years. So therefore you assume, or you could assume, that actually we're doing really fine, thank you very much. Whereas I tell my other clients, the time when you should start looking for new business is the time when you're successful, not when it seems that you're losing business. By then, it could be too late. So a year ago, I reasoned that actually we need to be spreading our net wider. We need to be going to other events. We need to look at what other people are doing. And that's had a big impact on the programme, in the fact that a number of the people and the subjects have come as a result of inspiration from other people. And I make no apologies for that. IBIS is here to bring you the best of what's going around the world, and this is a great way to do it. So we've been involved in a number of events in different countries and in different markets to pull this programme together. We're going to start off with something not about networks or not about our industry directly, but more about people. And Paul Gange of Fix Auto US, I was with him at his conference last year in New Orleans, and I was very impressed with his speaking ability and asked him to get involved, and I hope you'll enjoy that shortly. We talk a lot about technology, and in the past when we talked about technology, we talked about cars. Well, I think we've moved on from that, and I've introduced two themes here around the aspect of telematics, the aspect of e-call, the aspect of using smartphones, which could well put the consumer back in the driving seat of the collision repair process. These are challenges that we all need to be aware of and to face. After lunch, as a result of one of the changes, we've been able to secure a 45-minute interview with Tony Aquila of Solera. Now, some of you are saying, well, we've seen him before. In fact, we saw him 2 years ago at Barcelona. Well, a number of things, really, reasons for doing this. First of all, Tony Aquila is one of the few people at the top of an organisation that is truly global in the collision repair industry, truly global. He also is actively looking at the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India and China, areas that we are also looking at. And he also has got a model based on a traditional service and product, and where he's widening his portfolio quite dramatically to be able to sustain the required growth that he needs. This is a challenge that everybody in the room also faces. He's also a great speaker, and therefore, as a result of being able to secure the 45 minutes with this guy who's extremely busy, I think it was an opportunity not to be missed. We're then talking about China. And again, I reasoned that what better person to speak about China than a Chinaman? And we're very fortunate to have Zelong Peng here, who's going to be talking about China, but very much in conjunction with Karen Fierst. Karen's done a lot of work with China, and she's also been a very long-term supporter of IBIS, and been involved in 3 or 4 of them actively in the past, over the last 13 years. So we're going to bring to you, in a very different way than we normally bring a presentation, what's going on in China and what the impact will be for them and for us. You will have seen on the list of partners Suncorp. Suncorp is the largest Australian insurer, and Suncorp have brought with them 45 people from Australia to come here as part of a European trip. Those of you here last year in Barcelona remember I did an interview with Andy Hopkins of Gemini, and I want to extend further the rapid developments that are going on in the Australian market to you, because I believe there's some leading edge developments in the Australian market that I'd like you to hear about. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about suppliers. We rarely talk about suppliers, but they're a vital part of the supply chain. And the bit that intrigues me is, what do suppliers think about their routes to market? And what are the distributors that exist around the world? What challenges do they face, and how are they going to cope? And what sort of relationship do they need to build for the future? As a result of going to a major domestic collision repair seminar in Germany, I came across our next speaker, Marco Senger, from BBDP, which is an organisation set up in Germany. Now, Germany is a fascinating market, and as Marco will tell you, there's some key differences with their market and many others. But they've also got to move on. And the development of a network in Germany is something quite unusual. And they are at the forefront of that, and we'll tell you about that tomorrow. And then finally, coming back to the inspiration of Matt Ornstein, we have a session on MSOs in North America. And we have the head of what is arguably the largest public-owned or company-owned body shop network in the world, with a turnover in excess of $500 million, 225 sites, and we have the head of that organisation here talking to you, as well as contributions from Vincent Romans, who's going to be talking about the development generally in MSOs in North America, and also the involvement of private equity in the American market, which is fascinating. And then we'll be hearing from Aidan Quinn, who has changed jobs since he was with us last year, and he has a very strong view on the involvement of MSOs in the insurance market in America. So over these 2 days, we're going to be travelling across the world. We're going to be hearing from a number of different speakers, and I sincerely hope that there is something in there for everybody. Of course, such an event like this isn't possible. We say it every year, but we really mean it, without our partners. Our partners who not only support us with the event, they are supporting us in many other ways in terms of ideas for speakers and ideas for content. And we are having a series of meetings with all of them and others over the next 6 months to further expand that. But I just want to refer also to this. Anybody know what that is? It's a camera on the bottom of an interior door mirror, and it is in a Ford Focus in Moscow. And basically, it films everything that goes on in front of the car to avoid any, shall we say, confusion about what happened with an accident. So if you have a car that reverses into you, or a pedestrian that deliberately jumps out in front of you, which apparently happens in Moscow, then this will be filmed and used. Now, I have to admit, even though I do travel around and I do see lots of different experiences, I had never seen this before. Once I'd seen it, now, of course, everybody talks about it. And in fact, in the UK, one of the UK Sunday papers this last Sunday there was a review of a number of these particular cameras. Now, this is going to interestingly raise the whole question of avoiding fraud. And everybody seems to have these cameras in Moscow. And the Russian market is absolutely fascinating. And I'd love to be able to give you an insight into Russia this year, but that'll be something for the future, because this market is very different and very fascinating for us. And as a result of that, however, we are going to Russia and taking IBIS there in conjunction with one of our partners from IBIS, Automechanica, and we're going to be running the event alongside Automechanica Russia on the 27th of August. But let's thank 3M, let's thank AkzoNobel, let's thank Audatex, let's thank Automechanica, let's thank BASF, let's thank Enterprise, let's thank Innovation, let's thank Quindel, let's thank Suncorp for all their support in helping us bring this event to you. Let's give them a round of applause.